I can't believe how good Tokyo Drift actually is in Assetto Corsa. We will be using cars from the Tokyo Drift film to drift through the Tokyo Drift parking lot. First, we will be using Drift King's Nissan 350Z with the Veilside body kit. This car is running 286 brake horsepower and 311 Newton meters of torque. This car is super fun to drive, but it is quite slidey, which isn't necessarily the worst for a drift car. Now, this map is actually probably one of the harder maps to complete, and I might have overshot this. No, we're good. We can save it here. That's absolutely fine. Like I was saying, it's one of the harder maps to complete. It's just very narrow. You have to be very precise, and I almost clipped that wall. And one of the bigger issues on this map is your camera will actually clip through the walls, and things become a little bit messy as you can't see what you're doing. I mean, apart from that, this map is actually very, very fun. It's very, very precise, and you have to just be very careful with what you're doing. But it is super fun, and I would highly recommend it. I usually find this section really hard to complete. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it might be the angles that I always come in here. But this wavy section here is so narrow and just it makes the car feel like you have to really whip it out. These turns where you have to go back on yourself are so hard to do. Sometimes I don't get enough power to kind of carry myself around them. This map really does make you go back on yourself a whole lot. I mean, it is good, I guess, because you kind of get better at these narrow corners, but damn, it does it a lot. This final section here is usually a pain. Sometimes I mess this ramp up, but we managed to get through it. The camera through the wall does not help in that situation at all. Let's see if we can head all the way back down to the bottom of the Tokyo Drift parking lot. Now, this part here is so fun, although we do get a few camera glitches going through the walls and things, but that's fine. That really is the only downside to this map, the camera that goes through the walls. Apart from that, it's an incredible map, and it's actually really good fun. This map is definitely not made for beginners. I've been doing this for a bit. I've practiced on this map quite a few times as well, and I still find it very difficult. The body kit on this car really does bring this car out. I mean, especially making it a drift car with a body kit, I feel like you have to go with the Veilside. The Veilside looks incredible, and maybe because it's from the iconic film Tokyo Drift, it just makes it even better for us, but still, I love this car. We're not far from the bottom now, or from back to the start, should I say. We just got a couple of corners here, and these ones are very, very kind of 180 back on yourself. They're a bit hard to get, but that was very clean. This second one should be, yep, that was relatively similar. The final corner coming here, let's make it around there, and we can do the home straight back to the start where it all began. I've now jumped into the Nissan Silvia S15 Mona Lisa, as they called it in the film, which in my opinion didn't actually get as much screen time as it deserved. But anyway, this car is running 450 brake horsepower and 488 Newton meters of torque, and I've got to admit, it looks absolutely incredible. That angle was pretty gnarly. I mean, it does slide quite a bit, and it does handle very nicely. Let me know in the comments what your favorite car from the Tokyo Drift film is. Personally, I do love this S15. I feel like it didn't quite get enough screen time, like I said earlier, but I also think the 350Z with the Veilside kit. Now, I have a feeling most of you will probably say the orange RX-7 with the Veilside kit. Obviously, it's an iconic car, and it looks absolutely incredible. I've got to admit, they've done a good job with that car. This part always gets me. I come in here really fast, and then I end up messing this corner up, but I mean, if I just stuck the handbrake on like that, does it really count as a drift? I mean, I was just kind of sliding towards the corner. Let me know if handbrake sliding is actually drifting or it's just sliding. Like, could you actually use it as a drifting technique, using the handbrake to kind of slide yourself in and then continue putting down power, or is it just a coward's way? We're on our way back down. I still absolutely love just looking at this car. I mean, I'm drifting it about, but just purely looking at it is just aesthetically pleasing. I wonder if it only got so much screen time based on sponsorship from the film. As looking back on the Fast and Furious franchise, you do have a few main cars that are actually Mitsubishis, like the Lancer from Too Fast and Furious and Tokyo Drift. I suppose even when you think about it, the Too Fast Too Furious franchise actually had two main cars which were both Mitsubishis. You even had the Eclipse Spider. I could generally sit here all day and talk about Fast and Furious, as I really did love the franchise back in the day. However, they have changed it up a lot recently, and it's more of an action film than a racing film. This map actually takes quite a while to get from top to bottom and bottom from top. After drifting all this way down, I've kind of realized how much I've been talking about Fast and Furious. We're coming up to the final few corners here anyway. I mean, these are really narrow, and I actually find them very tricky. You've got to get just enough angle to kind of come back on yourself and enough power to keep yourself coming around the corner. It does get a bit tricky, but it is very rewarding. Jumping into the Ford Mustang 1967. This thing is an absolute beast, and I believe it is running around the 600 brake horsepower mark, which means it is a lot more than the other cars on this list. To be exact, 651 wheel horsepower and 837 newton meters of torque. The power on this car is so good, it actually allows you to put down some really nice drifts and kind of throw yourself around those corners, although I feel like it might be a little bit too much power for this map, but it is going very well. I would probably say this is the most smooth run I've had, and it is in the highest horsepower car that we've driven today, which is very weird. I thought I'd be much better in the lower horsepower cars, but maybe doing the map more just makes me get better. When I was younger, I was never really into the Mustangs or Fords or really any of those muscle cars. I was very much into the tuner side of things, but as I get older, I have more of appreciation for them. I mean, I don't see them in the UK, and it's very rare that you see a Ford Mustang in general in the UK. Probably the reason why. From what I understand, even things like Hellcats and Red Eyes and the Trackhawks, they're all very American-based cars. We don't actually see them very much at all over here in the UK. I also don't even think I have a Dodge dealership near me, which is also very weird. So we don't actually seem to have any type of Dodge dealerships. I mean, I'd have to travel quite far to get to one. Does anyone know why we don't actually have many Dodge dealers in the UK? Is it just like a American branded thing, or I'm not entirely sure. Man, this car is so good to drift in. We're even on the way back down that I forgot to mention because I was talking about Dodges too much. Now, in my opinion, this is the hardest corner in the whole map. It is so hard to do. I mean, even then I slammed on the e-brake and was basically going hardly anywhere and was kind of just sliding towards the corner, but still, it just feels so difficult and it just looks so gross. This part is fairly similar. You kind of jump down, but I mean, this is a lot easier to control than the one within the narrow space. We're only a few corners from the finish, and I've got to say this Mustang has been absolutely incredible to drift. It's such a good car. It's got really decent horsepower, and you know what? I thought it would be too much for this map, but clearly it actually owns this map.